Hello everyone, and welcome back to more G-Senjou no Maou with me, Phantom Zuai. So, last time, Tsubaki was kind of changing a little bit. She was becoming a little bit more loose in terms of, feeling more free to hang out and do what she wanted versus, how she was super duper family oriented before. Kyosuke is finding it easier to hang out with her. And this is obviously all due to Mao's influence. So, without further ado, let's go right into it. She held out her arms and stretched lazily. The Tsubaki from before definitely wouldn't do something like this. We were out for an entire day. Are you satisfied? Isn't it wonderful to have money? Tsubaki nodded grandly.
見聞が広がるよね。今までそういうの興味なかったけど、お金ってとっても大事だね。
Depending on how you use it, money can buy you anything.
どんなものでも
Like your heart. I said this half jokingly.
やだな。それにはお金なんていらないよ。
Sorry, that was just a bad joke. I guess I have a reputation for putting my foot in my mouth. We laughed and chatted in the empty park for some time. It was kind of fun. If I were a normal human, and we continued to do stuff like this, I might actually fall in love with Tsubaki. But beyond the fun, there's an air of sadness hanging around us. I'm always reluctant to part with her for some reason.
ねえ、浅井くん、明日は
Oh, are you inviting me again?
ダメかな。
I'm busy tomorrow.
浅井くんってお父さんのお仕事を手伝ってるんだよね。それで忙しいんだよね。どんな仕事なのかな。
Tsubaki assailed me with non-stop questions. Are you interested? I thought it over for a while. Like any business, my work could be facilitated by various things. One of those is a secretary. Though I guess that makes me sound a bit self-important. I just want an assistant or something. I could use someone to help with some small odd jobs, such as organizing my files, or dealing with the bills and email. It can't be someone from the Azai Corporation. Even if they're capable, they won't obey me. The loyalty they've sworn is to Gonzo, not me. In the near future, I'll need my own organization. From that perspective, Tsubaki is the perfect start. Women are generally kept on the down low in the underground, but they still have their uses. Do you want to try and work with me a little tomorrow?
どういう意味
I want you to help me for a bit. A confused look surfaced on Tsubaki's face.
私なんかでいいのかな。
Definitely. Don't worry about it. You're an honest hard worker. You'll be fine.
本当？嬉しいな。でもびっくりだな。
Her breaths, coming out in excited gasps, were dyed white by the cold. Of course, you can't tell anyone. Tsubaki's eyes shone with excitement, earnestly listening to my every word.
絶対言わないよ。約束するよ。
Then I'll contact you tomorrow.
必ず出るようにするよ。
You definitely better. Tsubaki's expression tightened when I emphasized my expectations. I'm going to take a day off from school tomorrow, but you'll still be attending. Can you take calls when classes are in session? She seems to be uneasy. You know how I'm often absent from school? Sometimes I get splitting headaches and have to stay in bed, but most of the time it's because of the company.
会社？お仕事のことだね。
Do you understand? To me, school is just a place of relaxation. I lied when I said I was just helping out my father. The truth is, the company is my main occupation.
知らなかった。すごい人だなって思ってたけど、そうなんだ。
So, if a call comes, be sure to take it immediately. That's how the business world works. I stepped closer to her. Can you promise me this much? Tsubaki held her breath.
悪いことしてるわけじゃないよね。
Yes. Of course not. It's not like we're doing anything illegal. There's nothing to worry about. Sometimes we'll step into a gray area bordering on criminal activity, but she doesn't need to know that right now. Hesitation. But since we've made it this far, I can't let her escape. This is the first time I've told anyone about this. You're the first to know, Tsubaki. I started with a small voice, and slowly. I'm only a kid after all. No one would believe that I'm doing an adult's job, and no one understands how hard it is for me. I slowly accelerated and inserted emotion. But you're different, Tsubaki. Fate, acting through that kidnapping tragedy, has allowed us to understand each other so well. We have such a good relationship, and, well, I increased my volume. These past few days have been so amazing. To be honest, I've never trusted anyone, but for some reason it's so easy to tell you the truth. You're the only one I can tell my secrets, Tsubaki. I made sure to keep saying her name. Tsubaki's eyes were wide open as breath after breath rushed from her lips.
そんな風に思われてるなんて。わかった。私も明日学園休んで電話待ってる。
That's a good girl. The work isn't particularly pressing. The issue is whether or not she can properly follow my directions. Well then, see you tomorrow.
おやすみ。
Excuse me. We waved goodbye. I turned my head around only to see that Tsubaki was still frozen in place. And then, a small shadow appeared.
お姉ちゃん。
Oh boy. It was her brother.
ひろあき？何してるの？お姉ちゃん、迎えに来たんだよ。
I watched their conversation from afar.
まさか、また一人で？お父さんももうすぐ来るよ。どうしてお父さんと一緒に来ないの？
Tsubaki screamed again, this time with all her strength.
お姉ちゃん言ったよね。もう一人で勝手に出歩いちゃダメだって。ごめん。でもお姉ちゃん帰ってくるって言って帰ってこなかったから。
Tsubaki must have told her family when she'd be back during one of her frequent phone calls.
だから何回同じこと言わせるの？
Tsubaki stooped down, continuing to talk with her brother. It must be really difficult to take care of that boy. Getting tongue-tied. It's not like I don't understand how Tsubaki feels.
いい加減にして。何が？
On a rural evening, sound travels far. I can hear even very small voices.
心配してるの。ひろあきがまた同じ目に遭うんじゃないかって。どうしてわからないかな。大丈夫だよ。僕は大丈夫だって。一人で保育園から帰ってこれるよ。一人でお姉ちゃん迎えに来たよ。
Tsubaki's quiet voice is echoing around. It's not good to eavesdrop. I should get going. It's not like I don't care, but I can't do anything about others' family affairs. As I left, I heard Tsubaki say something.
そう。なら、もう私も気にしないから。
That line brought with it the darkest and most depressed tone I'd heard yet from Tsubaki. Dun dun dun! Still in Chapter 2. Tsubaki Vision! The weather had been rather unstable recently. Sometimes it would snow from nightfall straight through to dawn. Yet as time pushed forward, the asphalt pavement dried, leaving Tsubaki nothing but inconsistent, blurred traces of white by the time she awakened. Tsubaki ignored her racing heart and stood as still as a street lamp, gazing at the familiar home her family was about to leave. The ants patrolled in squadrons near her feet. A black cloud of them gathered around a moth's broken wing and moved it to the colony in the garden. Perhaps the decaying innocence within Tsubaki's heart also served as valuable food in preparation for the upcoming spring. The overwhelming kidnapping, Her responsibility to her family and her feelings for Kyosuke might all be guiding her to a nest that most suited her true self. Hiroaki walked out the door. He closed in on Tsubaki like a puppy.
じゃあ出発
He made a fist, bent down, and jumped with excitement. He looked up at Tsubaki with a bright, floral smile. Her brother's every move was dear to her. She'll take Hiroaki to kindergarten, then head to school. This was her daily routine. If Hiroaki begged for a snack halfway, she would stop by a convenience store. If he wanted to play, she'd comply as long as time allowed. He was a child, after all. As his big sister, it was only natural for her to indulge him. But today was different. Tsubaki wouldn't go to school, but will rather wait for Kyosuke to contact her. Depending on the schedule Kyosuke set for her, she might not even go to pick up Hiroaki. She continued to hold on to her brother's hand. His chubby little arms were quite soft under her fingers.
姉ちゃんの手プニプニしてるよね太ってるっていうの
Her tone suddenly grew strict.
ヒロアキだってプクプクしてるよお菓子の食べ過ぎじゃないお姉ちゃんと一緒だね僕お父さんに椿にそっくりだって言われるよそっくり
Her brother's innocent smile made Tsubaki a touch uneasy. It was as if she'd seen that exact smile somewhere, or elsewhere, as if she'd seen it a sickening number of times, within the polished glass of a mirror, every day of her life. Why? What was it about her brother that bothered her?
行くよ
As a twisted emotion gathered in her chest and ran down her gut, she noticed that she was dripping with sweat. Kyosuke must be an early riser. His call came a few short moments after 7 o'clock. After glancing at her brother as he hummed beside her, she took the cell phone in her hands.
早いね浅井くん
Does that inconvenience you? An inquisitional tone came from the other end of the line. Though Kyosuke's tone changed often, there was a critical difference between this and the boy she'd become accustomed to at school. Tsubaki responded as if intimidated by his mannerisms.
大丈夫だよ今から行けばいい
Are you outside right now?
うん
Shall I infer that that means that you're escorting a sibling to kindergarten? Tsubaki panicked when he pinpointed the situation right away. Come quickly,
今すぐ
right now. An alarm rang in Tsubaki's heart. She hadn't experienced such anxiety since her last meeting with Maou. She had neither the courage nor even the intent to defy him.
分かった急いで行くから待ってて
Tsubaki's answer seemed to have satisfied Kyosuke. He thanked her and hung up.
姉ちゃん何
Kids are really good at reading people's feelings, she thought. The words Tsubaki wanted to say were stuck in her throat. Still, Tsubaki could only relax if she let the desire she'd only recently formed guide her. It's nothing strange for a girl her age to be happier with friends than family.
ヒロアキ一人で行ける
Her brother had been kidnapped once.
行けるよね昨日一人で大丈夫だって言ってたもんね
After learning of her brother's kidnapping, Tsubaki had burst into tears. She could do nothing but cry and shout, "It's all because I was late picking him up."
お姉ちゃんちょっと大事な用事があるからここでバイバイだよ
Burying the perplexed emotions deep within her heart, she left her old self behind. Was it really such a cruel thing to do, abandoning her brother to help the man that she loves to work? While it did come with some added cost, the added cost of skipping school, it was nothing as severe as breaking the law, nor was it an atrocious act enough to earn the contempt of others. It was merely taking a risk. Tsubaki, who always worried about such trivial things, suddenly noticed how insignificant she was. She couldn't help getting angry.
じゃあね帰りは迎えに来るから
Her brother knew nothing about Tsubaki's feelings and tilted his head.
終わるのお昼だよ姉ちゃん学校でしょ
Tsubaki broke out into a sweat once more after being stared at by Hiroaki's innocent pupils.
お姉ちゃんも 終わるのお昼だから。
Being put on the spot, she lied without thinking. In the end, Tsubaki still promised to pick up her brother, but this may have been purely a function of remorse or guilt.
じゃあこの公園で待ってるね。缶蹴りして遊ぼう。うん。
She averted her eyes. Afterwards, she silently made her way to Kyosuke's house. The crowded train to Central Boulevard gave her the impression that everyone was watching her, leaving her unsettled all the while. I led Tsubaki to my room. When I met her at the station, she bore a grim, shadowed, alien expression. Oop, sorry about that. Always forget to silence my phone. So, you really showed up.
お邪魔します。
Is this your first time here?
2度目だよ。
Ah, that's right. Are you feeling alright? I apologize for calling you over all of a sudden. Tsubaki weakly shook her head, indicating there was no problem. Is something troubling you?
なんで？
It's written all over your face. I laughed. Your relationship with your family hasn't been smooth lately, huh?
やっぱりわかる？
She looked embarrassed, like a child caught red-handed. Don't you think you've been a bit too easy on them in the past?
構いすぎたっていうこと？
I know it's difficult to manage a big family, but isn't it enough to just do what needs to be done? You brought your brother to kindergarten before you arrived here, didn't you? What? You didn't? Tsubaki only replied with a quiet nod. She seems to have allocated my directions as the top priority. She rushed here after leaving her brother.
学園もサボっちゃったね。
Do you feel bad about it? You'll get used to it soon enough.
慣れていいものなのかな。
Whether it's a problem or not is something a person should generally decide for oneself, but we don't have the time to waste over trivial things like that so long as she's going to be following my directions. The old Tsubaki, that straight-laced and honest girl, would be of questionable use to me. I was hoping for a relationship on par with those between cult leaders and their followers. No matter how ridiculous and inhumane the leader's commands become, the followers will obey and take them as gospel from God, and obey. Does Tsubaki have the potential to become the zealous believer that I wish for? Hey Tsubaki, aren't you interested in the reason that I'm working like this? Tsubaki snapped her head in surprise after suddenly being asked a question. I decided to blow my cover and reveal everything. I might be living in a luxurious life right now, but there was a time when I lived in absolute poverty.
本当？
She sighed as her eyes betrayed her shock. Man, can't read. I remember reading a random query on anthropology, and knowing that about someone's past leads you to sympathize with them. I need to close the gap between Tsubaki and me. It started around the beginning of middle school. Prior to my enrollment there, I had a happy family. After a certain occurrence, though, everything began to change.
事件？
I know I'm the one who brought it up and everything, but please don't ask about that. It's the source of many a headache.
わかった。ごめんね。
I slowly refreshed my memories. Even if I told you, you might not believe me. I recalled my past. I slowly opened the closed book to page 1. Every time I look back, the same scenery appears before my eyes. Samejima Kyosuke, an anxious child, alone in a dark room. It was a nameless village in Hokkaido. My mom and I lived in a shack adjacent to the cattle fodder and hay storage of a small farm. When winter reached our home, the temperatures dropped below zero. Our windows weren't double layered. The flooring reeked of cow feces, and centipedes fought spiders over hairs and a few scattered rice grains. To my surprise, cockroaches managed to survive there too, so far up north.
どうしてそんな生活を？
My father destroyed my home.
お父さん？
Yes. You may have heard me say Papa before, but when I do so, I'm referring to my foster father. He adopted me sometime later due to certain circumstances. In any case, my real father was already gone by the time of this story. He wasn't missing or dead or anything, but he owed the mafia a lot of money. Thus, my mom and I had to constantly keep moving, and in the end, we settled down in what was essentially a literal pigsty. A distant relative lent us the place. His name was Canu or something like that. Apparently it carries some sort of discriminatory nuance in that region, but I'm not sure. Canu gave us a place to stay when we had nowhere else to go, but he was a real son of a bitch, with a criminal record to prove it. He might have been doing some day labor, but he would sometimes harass my mom by flaunting his earnings. My mom had a few random jobs too, but the village provided few employment opportunities for outsiders. As a result, we could only obey Kanu's every whim. The biggest problem was kerosene. The price for kerosene in farming villages is unbelievably high, and when it's cold enough to make your nose run, an empty oil can is practically a death sentence. Though Mom often made fuel for the heater her top priority, the lack of resources grew more dire each day. We lit that old heater once a day, and that would guarantee us an hour or two of warmth. My mother and I always took that opportunity to wrap ourselves up in sheets and talk about everything and anything and everything. If only we had more money. That's always what I said. I begged for a job as a paper delivery boy, but Mom didn't permit it. She was worried that my body couldn't withstand the cold. She said that walking in the snowy mountains to deliver newspapers would be too harsh for a child. Yet still, our fuel stockpiles were waning by the day. I think a snowstorm forced the whole village into a shortage. Only 1 hour was left of the heartwarming 2 hours each day. I talked to all the students at my middle school. It was a small school, no more than 50 kids in total. I pleaded with them, every last one, to share what they could. In the end, they passed me off as a beggar and provided nothing. They said, "You must be wasting oil all the time. That's why you don't have enough." They didn't share a drop. We never wasted anything. But then I thought that maybe everyone else was in the same situation as we were, but we were patiently enduring it. I returned home feeling a bit bad about what I'd done. But after thinking about it, it did seem a bit strange. Our fuel was being used up faster than we were consuming it. I even began to suspect my own mother of using the heater in my absence. Shortly thereafter, I met Canu in front of our shack. He became enraged when he saw me and started yelling desperately. "Who do you think is letting you live here?" The bastard was swinging a jar of kerosene back and forth. I think he stole it from us. I questioned him. He was muscular as a bear, and his face was always red, as if he were constantly intoxicated. Upon hearing our argument, the people living nearby gathered round. Canu was a cunning man. He was good at keeping up facades and hiding his true self. He pretended to be a saint helping some outside woman and her young son make ends meet. Thus, in the end, we were the ones in the wrong. Sometime later, I mentioned it to a schoolteacher. However, from that one conversation, I finally understood how the people in the village viewed my mother and I. Working at a bar on the outskirts of the village seemed to have earned Mom a bad reputation. Come on, it's just a bar. It's not like she was a prostitute. Still, the people in the village used the Hokkaido farming village dialect to humiliate my mom as if she were one. I used this chance and begged my mother to leave the village with me. But she was too exhausted. She was a kind woman, but she was just too exhausted. And there was nowhere to go, so there was really nothing we could have done. And then one day, our heater suddenly began having enough oil to burn through the whole night. Canu's attitude changed too. He bought stuff for me, trying to win me over. He stopped calling me a brat, and sometimes the three of us had dinner together. As a kid, I never wondered why a hypocrite like Canu suddenly decided to help us. And then, I saw why. I saw the sight of a woman lying hogtied, screaming. In my very own home, no less. Maybe I shouldn't have taken the day off due to illness. The thick smell of alcohol was nearly suffocating. A 1-liter beer bottle laid upturned on the floor. The bear of a man had just finished drinking, and didn't even try to hide his naked lower body, He just stared at me. I remember those foul yellow eyes, that face like rock, those hard pulsating muscles. Canute's strong body, trained by years of manual labor, scared me to death. I was overwhelmed. He beat me that night until I thought my stomach would fly out. He kicked me until my back was breaking. Mom protected me, crying nonstop. The son of a bitch just screamed a few curses at her and yanked her by the hair. He approached her, his breath saturated by the cloying scent of alcohol, all the while staring at me with glaring eyes. Kyosuke, you can take this, can you? Why can't you take this? Can you take this? It's all your fault. It's because you don't have money. The fucker never stopped talking. He reminded us that he was the real owner of our filthy pigsty. Get out if you don't like it, you animals. He proudly stated that he was free to treat his livestock as he pleased. If you animals don't want to accept this, you can go to work. So, Kyosuke, can you feed your mother? Can you rent a house? Can you go to school? Can you make a living? Mom bowed and apologized. She said it was our fault. She pretended to be strong, told me she was okay, and then demanded that I apologize immediately to that son of a bitch. I obeyed my mother. Tsubaki's shoulder shivered like she was struck by lightning as she stood silent. That was a long story. What do you think? Tsubaki frowned and mumbled.
ひどい人だなって。お母さんがとても不憫で。
I think I just wasted my breath. It's not what I mean. That asshole was trash, and my mother was unfortunate, yes. True enough. But what I want to say is, Tsubaki. I paused for a moment before continuing. Back then, if I only had a fraction of the money that I have now.
いや、でも、浅井君は中学生だったんでしょ?
Take a good look at Central Boulevard. There are people who are obviously elementary school students claiming to be high school students in order to sell accessories or tickets, right?
それは、ここは大きな町だから。
Anyway, I didn't have any money. My luck might be rotten, but what do you expect? No goddesses of luck would shine on someone who couldn't pay the fee. Suddenly, Tsubaki seemed to have thought of something and said,
うちは大丈夫かな?
I think their situation is quite severe. Have you noticed your dad being sort of grim lately?
全然楽観してるのかな?
I don't know. But just in case, I'd like you to take what I said to heart.
私が家族を支えなきゃ。みんな私に甘えてるところあるから。
I'll compensate you for your work if you decide to help me. It won't be much, but I think you'll find the pay a lot better than a part-time job. I smiled, and the tension left Tsubaki's face.
頑張るよ。浅井君の話聞いて、ちょっと家族とももう一度向き合ってみる。
What do you mean?
ほとんどひろあきのことなんだけどね。あの子ってどう思う?
I think he's spoiled compared to the average child.
その通りだよ。私が甘やかしてたんだと思う。
You could be doing him a disservice, you know. He'll only be worse off for it as an adult.
保育園の先生にも同じようなこと言われたよ。
Then I'll go ahead and tell you the rest. To be honest, I've seen some things I didn't really approve of in your dealings with him. I crossed my arms in front of my chest and continued. Why don't you scold him? I think it would be for the best if you seriously got angry every once in a while.
最近はちょっと叱るようにしてるんだよ。
The time when he ran out of the house at night without permission? I lightly sighed. That was more like Tsubaki screaming hysterically than a proper scolding. Wouldn't it be better if you put more feeling into it?
そうかな。どうすればいい?
Are you seriously asking that?
私、あんまり誰かに怒ったことないから、それを相手にどう伝えていいかわからなくて。
Isn't it okay to just let your feelings guide you? Take out all your anger, and even a child would understand how you feel. Tsubaki's pupils were overcome by a strange glow.
やってみるよ。
She gave me a straight stare.
今度また勝手に外に出歩いてたら
That sentence seemed to be herself to herself as much as to me. We've chatted for a long time now.
じゃあ何からすればいいのかな。
Do you know how to use a computer?
インターネットくらいなら。
Good. Then have a look at the data over there first. I pointed at a pile of paper on the table. It's a list of buildings managed by the SOA Alliance. Facility management is broad and complicated, but the Azai Corporation's capabilities are widely recognized.
これ全部500枚くらいあるよ。
What you're doing is very simple. Go through the list and pull out any files that include supplementary facilities.
付帯設備
For example, swimming pools, parking lots, or sports grounds. After you pick them out, input their names and phone numbers into the computer.
結構かかりそうだね。
You should be done by dusk.
夕方
It seems that she had something to say, but stopped for some reason. What, did you have any prior engagements?
平気だよ。
I'll be in the room right there. Just call me if you have any questions. Tsubaki started organizing the documents right away. Hey Tsubaki, your cell phone is ringing. I took a break and checked up on Tsubaki during the afternoon. Tsubaki froze, staring intently at the cell phone.
うちからだ。どうしよう。
What do you mean, what should you do? Pick it up. You should be at school now, right?
それもそっか。何慌ててるんだろうね。
The ringing stopped as we spoke.
あ、
Are you gonna call them back?
いいよ。どうせ何でもない用事だと思う。お父さんったら私が携帯持ったもんだから意味なく電話かけてくるの。
Tsubaki returned to her work once more. She seems to be doing a good job. The names of the buildings are already listed on the computer monitor. You're in good shape.
そう？私こういう単純作業向いてるのかも。
You really helped me out. I'm glad I found you, Tsubaki.
本当？
She glanced at me happily through the corner of her eye.
ねえ、浅井くん。
Yes?
ひろあきをね、昼に迎えに行くって、公園まで迎えに行くことになってるんだけどね。さすがに帰るよね。私が来なかったら。
Well, normally he would.
だよね。
But are you sure that that's okay? I pressed her. It's no fun if she just leaves in the middle of work. But Tsubaki is already the kind of person I want her to be.
ちゃんと終わらせてから帰るよ。ひろあきは一人でも帰れるからね。私、ちゃんと働いて、ちょっとでもうちにお金入れたい。その方が、なんていうのかな。家族のためだよ。こう言うとあれだけど、結局、お金があれば、家を出て行かなくても済んだわけじゃない？ひろあきが誘拐された時、人にお金を借りずに済んだんだよ。
Now you get what I was saying earlier. Tsubaki smiled.
私、浅井くんに出会ってよかったな。
Why bring that up now?
だって、浅井くんって私にないものをたくさん持ってるんだもの。
Tsubaki has plenty that I lack too. Or rather, she's composed entirely of qualities that I lack. Still, in the end, she will become a person like me. A suspicious, cheating, self-protective schemer. These traits are neither just nor evil. Everyone acts this way. I was filled with a sense of satisfaction, having confirmed that my way of life was not mistaken. Well, let's work for a bit longer. After that, Tsubaki pushed her natural hardworking tendencies to 120%. Until the moment she clocked out, her hands worked swiftly. as if her perplexed heart had already been blown away by the wind. So Tsubaki certainly had a change of heart. The temperature dropped sharply as the sun sank into the west. Even the blending into the crowds along Central Boulevard couldn't ease the bitter cold. High school students were going home, being targeted by late-night shows' cameras for interviews. The entire scene has already made its way into the realm of routine. They'd all become ecstatic once they faced the microphone. If Kyosuke demanded it, Tsubaki could act exactly like these girls in front of the camera, full of passion. A store window in the streets caught her attention as she wandered. Behind it was a plastic mannequin in a tempting pose in a famous brand-name dress.
Nina.
She mumbled. She looked into herself, vainly trying to confirm if those were her true feelings. No answer came. It only caused restlessness in her heart. Between Tsubaki and the mannequin, her reflection in the glass bore such a frightening visage that she couldn't recognize herself. As the cold tortured her body, Tsubaki headed to the subway station. After Tsubaki left, I suddenly spotted an object that she had left behind. A familiar notebook. That precious record Tsubaki had once held close to her. How could she forget to take something she valued so much? People who write in a diary might be able to contain their emotions through it, but I haven't seen her writing anything at all lately. Even so, I doubt it's something she's willing to part with just yet. I called Tsubaki. Yet all I heard was the mechanical voice of an unavailable recipient. Is she on a train? Maybe she turned it off. Tsubaki might really do that. Well, I'm headed to Central Boulevard anyway, so I'll drop it off while I'm out. I put on a coat and left the house. Waiting for me outside was a breeze cold enough to snap me back to reality. She might have caught a cold. She felt dull and sweat beaded on her forehead. Her body temperature was unstable. Her feverish sensation was soon replaced by chills. Tsubaki walked through the park with empty footsteps. As if her legs were plated with lead, she kept on moving forward, rushing towards home. Why am I panicking? She slowed her steps as she wondered. Tsubaki must feel guilty for skipping class. No, maybe it's because she was on a bit of a high after being accepted by Kyosuke. Carrying all kinds of uneasiness, her steps grew heavier. For example, what about the exchange student, Usami Haru? Tsubaki treated her as a friend without ever thinking twice. Before she knew it, she'd already started to hate Haru. After listening to Kyosuke's story, she understood what a scary thing debt can be. Thankfully, Kyosuke had provided her with a house to move to, but beyond that, the only thing awaiting their arrival was a life of poverty. Couldn't her father think of a better solution? Tsubaki lost her breath. Why is it always me who has to do the worrying? Then the true source of Tsubaki's anxiety appeared.
あ、お姉ちゃん、やっと来た。
Tsubaki's brother dashed towards her. He waited for her like it was the most natural thing in the world. His innocent smile showed no fear of the bitter cold. Her body felt a different sort of chill. The reflection she had seen in the shop window earlier couldn't possibly smile like her brother anymore. Sadness, rage overcame her. Tsubaki had already completely forgotten the fact that she herself broke the promise, and stared solemnly at Hiroaki.
なんで帰ってないの？
The accumulated despair dropped deep into Tsubaki's heart. The sound it created as it landed rebounded off the darkness it found there, and escaped through Tsubaki's mouth in the form of words. These were all delivered straight to Hiroaki's ears.
困らせるんだ。
The downtown crowd is as annoying as always. I'm taking the subway to the Eastern District. I doze off, thinking about Tsubaki. I've witnessed her personality change firsthand. Like ink dripping onto a clean sheet of paper, she's slowly losing her original form. Just as they say, As difficult as creation is, destruction is easy. The innocence Tsubaki had been raised with since she was young vanished without a trace, right after her introduction to money. Which means it was no stronger than that to begin with. Tsubaki's kindness was only a fragile, insignificant thing. One could say that fragility was because she hadn't built up a strong enough buffer against philosophical insult. True enough, I've been inducing Tsubaki, and she's experienced a number of misfortunes that left her vulnerable. There was that kidnapping, and as a result of it, they've been forced into major debt and have been chased from their home. Still, I thought, is it really acceptable for humans to be that weak? No matter the circumstances, the core of the problem lies with the one being exploited. Everyone knows where the responsibility lies, but saying so before the masses would lead to criticism, so people choose to stay silent. My hands might be filthy, but I'm correct. I steeled my resolve again and delivered my body over to exhaustion. So much narration! Like, oh my god. Tsubaki couldn't take it anymore. The snowflakes falling to the ground froze her reason.
これで何回目だと思ってるの？一人で出歩いちゃダメだって教えるのは。
Although she inquired in a cold tone, her brother was ignorant to the changes in Tsubaki.
それより聞いてよ。マサト君がね、マサト君ってお友達がね、犬飼ってもらったんだって。マフマフしてるの、僕も欲しい。買って。
The veins in her temple throbbed.
ねえ、買って。チワワっていうの。買って。いくらすると思ってるの？知らない。高いの？コンビニのアイス全種類買うより高い？当たり前でしょ？
Is he so spoiled that he didn't even know a thing like that?
でもお姉ちゃんずっと前僕にゲーム機買ってくれたよ。すっごい高いってみんな言ってた。羨ましいって言われたよ。
That me doesn't exist anymore.
お金ないの？嘘だ。お姉ちゃんの貯金箱見たよ。お札がいっぱいだったよ。人の財布を勝手に見たらダメでしょ？だって僕いつもそのお金でおやつ買ってるよ。本当はいけないことなの。
She always thought that he was too adorable to deny, and let him get whatever he wanted. That was a huge mistake. From this point on, Tsubaki's family won't have enough savings. She can't ask for an allowance from her parents, and she can't waste her money on her siblings anymore. The sweat dripping from her skin was assaulted by a snowy wind, bringing on a sudden chill.
お姉ちゃん、缶蹴りしよう。やだ、寒いし。
Tsubaki's hands shivered slightly. Surely the cold wasn't the reason. It was a subconscious attempt at suppressing a dark impulse. If she gave in to that impulse, there'd be no turning back.
ねえ、やろうよ。
One second. Sorry about that. Cough is still hanging on a little bit.
嫌だって。もしやってくれたら僕何でも言うこと聞くよ。だからほら。
He reached out and placed the can directly in front of Tsubaki. Tsubaki's darkness flowed into the container drop by drop. It was about to overflow from within.
何でも。ならわかるよね。何回も同じこと言ってるもんね。
She planned to put a stopper in her heart. To close the doors Maou had opened, Tsubaki asked her brother.
わかるよね、ひろあき。何かな、教えて。僕お姉ちゃん好きだよ。お姉ちゃんの言いつけ破んないよ絶対。だから遊ぼう。そして終わったら子犬買いに行こう。
Now, for some reason, Maou and Kyosuke's voices overlapped in Tsubaki's heart. This child is hopeless. Together with their words, the dark droplets flowed out of the can before her. A torrent burst forth. Hiroaki! Her impulse spiked dramatically. Her raging palms screamed for violence, soaring through the wind. The can placed in front of her shot to the sky with a clear sound. She was desperate. Then, like waves lapping upon the shore, her palm firmly collided with her brother's face. Pain. Her palm was moaning in pain. Hiroaki's chubby cheek reddened. She'd always kissed him before, saying how cute he was. Yet this time, she'd hit him. She'd finally hit him. There would be no turning back. The Tsubaki of the past turned to ash as the sound of her sin echoed in the cold air. The serious, straight-laced Tsubaki crumbled completely. It was a blow for disciplinary purposes. She immediately formulated an excuse. Because they were family, such actions would be forgiven. Someone might even praise her for it. Still, to Tsubaki, this was a tragedy akin to jumping from a skyscraper.
Hiroaki.
Tsubaki, frightened, addressed her younger brother. Hiroaki knelt on the floor, completely silent, like a marionette with severed strings. The shock he suffered must be immeasurable. Even the person who hit him nearly collapsed in regret. To be treated violently by the sister he'd always trusted would be entirely unfathomable. Hiroaki raised his head, obviously confused. Tsubaki's heart itself shook the air out of her lungs. She could only hear that, as if him blaming her. Why did you hit me? The next moment, her brother's foolish smile met Tsubaki's eyes. I don't understand. Hiroaki didn't cry, but hugged Tsubaki's legs happily. Her brother's stainless smile disgusted her. Seeing that familiar smile nauseated her. Tsubaki lit a dark, raging fire of melancholy. Once again letting her instincts guide her body, she struck her brother once more. She crashed into his small chest, sinking her fist into his face. She used all her strength to force him onto the ground. She brought out all of the brutality of a lifetime. But even when Hiroaki was covered in dirt, he still stood up with a smile, rubbing his knees. Why won't you cry? What is it that makes you so happy? Why is there no suspicion, no hatred, no tears? Isn't it obvious that you're being beaten up? This is no game. I've already gone berserk, battering an insolent child. I hate you. Innocent, naive, free of suspicion. You make me so mad. He drew the sentence out with a sweet voice. His stretched cheeks were red and inflamed. He looked up at her with an innocent, inquisitive look. Tsubaki's malicious cries wouldn't reach him, no matter what. Is this kid that dumb? How can he not understand? Why, no matter how hard I hit him, does he still think it's a game? Something welled up from Tsubaki's heart. Tsubaki's naive brother concluded that his sister was cold. Hiroaki made an honest, caring attempt from deep within his heart. He looked at Tsubaki, and within those eyes, Tsubaki reached her limit. She finally understood. During her brother's growth, only people who loved him passed through his eyes. He believes unconditionally that the sister who had poured nothing but endless unconditional love onto him would never hurt him. Indeed, it was like a mirror.
Hiroaki!
Snowflakes danced through the air like cherry blossoms. They fell softly onto Tsubaki's heart, cooling the flames. That was a surprising scene. I witnessed the conversation between Tsubaki and her brother from the sidelines. Tsubaki must feel tortured by his impeccable trust.
僕が一人でお外に行くのがそんなに悲しかった？
Tsubaki weakly shook her head. I taught Tsubaki this once before. Let your emotions guide your body. Let everything in your heart flow out.
お姉ちゃんがおかしかったんだよ。
And this was the result. No matter how spoiled he is, Tsubaki's brother was still Tsubaki's brother. Tsubaki's whole family was so innocent and naive, you'd wonder if they were faking it.
ごめん。ごめんね。僕。ひろあきは何にも悪くないよ。私が嘘をついてたの。ひろあきとの約束を破って学園もずる休みしてたの。さっきだって遊んでたんじゃなくてイライラしてひろあきをぶったの。ごめん。ごめんね。
Their tears fell together like a reflection in a mirror. A sudden ache erupted in my chest. I finally understood what I had seen in Tsubaki all along. It's not that she disgusts me. It's that she has what I always yearned for. I was deeply jealous of her innocence. Thus, I wanted to destroy it. Damn. We should have never crossed paths. Tsubaki built such a wonderful thing as the strength of her heart. A thing I'll never have. She built a steady home no wind could ever shake.
僕、もう絶対勝手に出歩かないよ。そう？うん。だってお姉ちゃんと一緒にいたいもん。お姉ちゃんがお外連れてってくれるもん。お姉ちゃんが僕の頼みを聞いてくれなかったことないもん。
A smile slowly emerged on Tsubaki's face.
ありがとう。なんだかとっても楽になったよ。私はこれでいいんだね、ひろあき。誰も疑わないし、お金にも興味ないし、恋愛にも消極的。それでも私にはたくさんの家族がいるもんね。お父さんが買ってくれたダサい子をと着るし、みんなが繁華街で遊んでる時に私は公園でひろあきと関係にするの。それでいいんだよね。ね、ひろあき。
The snowfall grew heavier. I forgot the work I came to do as I stood there, watching. I couldn't suppress my feelings. If I let these people influence me any further, I'll never be myself again. Nevertheless, I can't deny that I want to take that final step. How is the Miwa family going to face poverty over the move? Can they continue to make fond memories in the face of a true problem, money? After thinking about their uncertain future, my feelings became muddled. I hope I'm not developing feelings for Tsubaki above the necessary level. Should I go deeper? And actually, it was said in the comments that I was wrong about, that being the choice that leads on to Tsubaki's route. This is apparently the choice that leads on to Tsubaki's route. Invest in Tsubaki or ditch her while I can. So, this is where we are going to leave off for the day. It's been a good long episode, so it worked out. But more than that, I want to be able to properly label the episodes from here. I actually need to go back and relabel the episodes up until this point, because I labeled them as Tsubaki's route, and it's not. But either way, that's neither here nor there. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that scene. Very heartwarming. I'm into it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.